Have you ever said anything to your wife or your kids that you thought might have helped, but instead it made things worse? Maybe you tried to calm your son down by saying something like, dude, you're fine, man. It ain't that big of a deal. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Come on, man. Or you might have told your wife, just relax. But suddenly you find yourself in like a full-blown argument. And trust me, I have been there too. My guest today is Josh Davis, and what he teaches could change the way that you communicate forever. But for right now, let's get started with this killer interview with Josh Davis. All right, Josh, Mr. NLP man, how are you doing? Welcome to Dad Edge, brother.
I'm doing great. Great to be here. Thanks.
It's good to have you, man. Okay, so I want to start with this question just for anybody out there who does not understand what NLP is. Can you please describe this? And I would welcome you to just share as much detail as you can of what it is and why it's important.
Yes. Okay, great. And I want to preface it by saying that I've been around this stuff for 25 years, in some ways longer, and I think this is some of the most powerful stuff that I honestly believe that dads need to know about this. And you'll see why I believe that. But as I share a little bit about what NLP is, I think that'll help to make sense of why that's my perspective, at least. So short answer is NLP is a collection of best practices that actually come from psychotherapy that are extremely good at very quickly helping to hone in on what exactly for each person in their individual context is going to help them make a change that's going to last. And so it could be a relationship change, it could be, a professional change, it could be a health change, whatever kind of change it is. It could be helping somebody else to change. But it's these tools for just dialing down super quick into what exactly is it that needs to change, the difference that will make the difference for each individual. And it's now 50 years old, so it's been time tested for 50 years. At this point in history, if you look at the individual tools within NLP, they have been studied for the most part, researched. There's brain science, psychology research that supports it. And I've put that all together in my book, The Difference That Makes the Difference. And that's the first time that those pieces have been put together. My partner and I, on this project, my co-author, Greg Prasmushkin, we've figured out, I think, ways to really teach it very simply and make it accessible. But ultimately, what you've got is there were these... if you go back to the 60s and 70s, so now it's like the slightly longer version, but I think it's helpful in terms of understanding the potential here. Let's go back to the 60s and 70s. There are a number of pioneers in psychotherapy that are doing things that are radically different from what's been done before, much quicker, much more outcome focused. You've got cognitive therapy, gestalt therapy, family therapy, hypnotherapy, all these new therapies, some things that a lot of these ideas even weren't yet labeled as things yet, like, acceptance and commitment therapy, right? So you've got all these ideas that are new. There's no research at this point, but it's clear that they're getting results that are much quicker and oftentimes lasting than what had been done previously for many cases, right? And so at the time, so my parents actually, they ran a family therapy institute for 40 years. They've since retired, but they were among this group of people who were saying, hey, we want to do this stuff is amazing. We need to learn the new stuff. And at the time, the only way to do it was to go and just observe and try to copy what these therapists were doing. And along comes the founders of NLP. You've got a linguist, a linguistics professor, and a partner of his who are studying the language patterns. They're not looking at the content, they're looking at the form. What are the language patterns these therapists are using and that they're picking up on? And they expanded to nonverbal communication too. And they just did a phenomenal job of identifying the things you need to pay attention to be able to really move the needle. They got endorsements from some of the people they were studying saying, like, they understand what I do better than I do, things like that. So my mom, she's got 2 little kids at this point. It's 1979 or 1980, and she wants to learn hypnotherapy. And she sees this endorsement. And she says, I got to check this out. I can take the class, but I can't fly out and observe this guy because I got these kids, right? So she takes the class. She falls in love with it, gets my dad into it. They start teaching it. They did that for about 20 years, but incorporated it into their work. Lots of people have taken it and run with it, applied it in marketing, in sales, in negotiations, in all kinds of areas. You've probably heard of Tony Robbins, right?
A little bit.
He right, a little bit, right. Tony Robbins, like, he likes to tell people, like, I'm using NLP, right? He's got his own way of doing it. And then what I've done now is, because I love being a dad and I'm just all about it. And I had an amazing role model as a dad, which I know is unusual. And so I'm applying it to being a dad. Right. And that's what I want to bring to people, because it can change families and lives and make you, and you can apply it in your work too. I mean, it's like the stuff you're learning about how to quickly, like, how do I guide my kid while giving them freedom? Or how do I be their playmate at times and their leader at times? Or how do I support my wife, so that, or my partner, so that like the family system is working? Or how do I get my kid to be open to even hearing me, especially when they're mad at me, right? It's like, there's incredible tools for this.
What is the difference? I've always wanted to know this. I don't know the answer, but what is the difference between NLP and cognitive behavioral therapy?
So you will see some of the things uh, overlap in the two. And then that's some of the stuff in the book that I'll kind of explain where you'll see overlap with different therapies. But it's especially cognitive therapy is focused on the thoughts that you have that may lead you to either get stuck or to not get stuck. So maybe if I think like, oh man, it's like I'm never going to be able to get through to, my daughter about how she needs to take her like studies seriously, right? So that's a belief I have. I'm never going to be able to get through to her, right? Now, cognitive therapy has some wonderful tools for helping you challenge that belief, create a new belief, practice that new belief. NLP has some wonderful tools for also challenging that belief. Some of them are the same, some of them are different. NLP also will go beyond the thoughts and will look at things like, what's the mental image you have? How can I change that? How can I change the state that I'm in very quickly, or help somebody else to do so? How can I refocus my mind, or ask myself different questions, or presuppose things that will guide my unconscious mind to support what I'm trying to solve? So I think because NLP was derived from studying all these different psychotherapists, you see a lot of what you have in cognitive therapy and a lot more. It'd be like how I like to think of it. But that there also are some wonderful things in cognitive therapy that you wouldn't find in NLP.
Can you give us an example of maybe an experience that you had personally with a client, or maybe you even had personally, that would really help us understand? Like, it sounds like what NLP is it's maybe more robust and more involving, maybe more dynamics, more factors. But can you give us an example, like
Yeah.
maybe a real world example of what one is versus the other?
Yeah. So um, here was one. So, and in the example, you'd like me to compare cognitive therapy and NLP? Is that,
Yes,
or
that'd be
yeah,
great.
okay. So here's one situation that you could have addressed kind of in either modality. So in NLP, and I want to also just pause and acknowledge, a lot of people might be saying, this sounds really complex, right? A whole lot of stuff to learn. And there's a tremendous amount that you can learn, but also it can really be learned and applied quickly. And so that, I mean, that's what I spent the last 2 years working on, is like, how do you make it very simple to take an idea and apply it? And even to the point where we've just got some reflection questions in each chapter. And if you just take 5 seconds to reflect as you're reading, you're applying it and you can use it again. But so here's one of these things, and I'll also draw the distinction between how you might have approached it in a different modality like cognitive therapy. So we had, the kids like tease each other, right? And they get into fights. It happens, right? And
What?
so, yeah, no, it's just me.
about?
It's just me. But if
It's
there's
just
one
your
or
family.
two other people out there like this, you'll find it interesting, right? So, um, so we got 3 kids, and one of them, he's going through a bit of a tough time, having a few weeks where it's like he's more easily triggered, right? And so anytime he perceives, or honestly misperceives at times, that he's being teased, or one of the others is being mean to him, he's just jumping on it, right? And escalating. And then it turns to a fight quickly. And, my wife and I were trying to jump in and saying, like, and trying to interrupt it, right? Trying to interrupt the pattern and be like, wait a second, let's talk, and this and that. He's not hearing us. Right. He's just like, we can't, and then it escalates, and we're like, and then, we get frustrated and so forth. So I went back to NLP, and I'm like, all right, what's relevant here? And one thing that I landed on And this was just, I spent about 20 minutes doing this. I mean, this is not like a huge thing to do, but one thing, there's this wonderful teaching, which is you need to meet people where they are before you can lead them somewhere else. And in this case, it was about meeting him emotionally where he was, the one who was getting triggered easily in this. And so I was like, right, of course. So how do I meet him where he is? And so I started focusing on, like, what's his experience right now? So then he would get triggered like that. And instead of me saying, like, you have to stop or trying to break it up or anything like that, I'm saying, I think you feel like she or he was being mean to you and that it's unfair because you were just trying to do this. Is that right? And all of a sudden, he's hearing me. And then I can redirect however I want. Then I can be like, let's take 10 minutes or let's practice doing it the right way. And he's actually been open to that in those moments when we couldn't get a word in, get noticed. And all of a sudden he's open to this, right? And I've been doing it every day since. And then here's what was really wonderful. So, like, a week later, the kids are with the babysitter. And of course, this stuff is happening. And then the babysitter told us that they said to her, we need daddy. He knows how to stop us.
So you're like the you're the referee, right?
But that's the thing I was doing. Now, if this was like a cognitive therapy approach, what we'd probably try to do is to work with the kid who's feeling like, who's getting triggered too easily, about like, well, how is he interpreting the situation? What's the meaning he's making of it? But to be able to do that, we'd have to have a conversation separately when he's calm and can reflect on the whole thing, which can be wonderful. But I need something I can jump in the moment, right? So that's, both can be good. But so if I'm going to reflect and say, okay, what's the meaning you're making of it? What's a new meaning you can make of it? Oh, right. That, like, she wants to play, or she just got annoyed with something I did, or like, if I take a break, then she's actually going to, be nicer to me. And he can replace it with that kind of a thought, or like, of course she loves me, but right now she's just asking for some time. Right? He can practice those thoughts, right? And then if he's practiced them, he's more likely to come up with them in the moment. But that's a more involved thing. It's like, that's great, but I also want the thing that's going to help me step in once there's already an issue.
So let me just make an observation here, and you tell me if I'm right or if I'm off my rocker here. So, kids' three needs in a relationship is to feel seen, heard, and safe, right? And it sounds like the difference between NLP and cognitive, well, one of the differences, I'm sure of many, is that if something said right, like you did, like, hey, I can see that you're upset here, right? So you're labeling his emotion, right? Which is probably making him feel seen and heard, right? It's like, oh yeah, I am feeling that way. And you're probably giving it this meaning. So it's like, oh man, like he understands. So like, it's like this beautiful pattern interrupt that takes that kid maybe out of that triggered state for even if it's just like a handful of seconds, right? To stop that and then to recalibrate, right? Which is really, really incredible. But it sounds like what NLP, in the situation you're talking about, it's something that you can use right there in the moment, that maybe where the triggers are high and maybe the tempers are high, and you don't necessarily have to wait until they calm down, but you can do something right then and there. Is that what I'm hearing?
So here's an example where you really can. There are so many different tools, many of which I think are for those times when you could step back and think, right? And they can be really powerful and help somebody so that they just don't get triggered again in the future, right? You or your kids, or right? And that's, I think, a huge part of it too. In addition, I think what it is that NLP provides you with the process to dial in on what needs to happen for this context and for this individual. And so in some cases, that's going to enable you to have things where you can interrupt in the moment as it's happening, and to have the right kind of pattern interrupt. I think that language you use, the pattern interrupt, absolutely. And feeling seen and heard, that's meeting them where they are, right? And safe, of course, right? Yeah. So yes, it can help you to do that, but it's not that that's all we're doing. It's that there's a process so that you can figure out, what could I do if I need to interrupt the pattern, or what could I do if I have more time?
And that's probably one of the most useful, as I hear you talk about this, it's got to be one of the most useful tools, because it gives us something tactical and something practical and even logical to use when we are in a heightened emotional state ourselves, because when we see that chaos going on, we get triggered and we
Right.
immediately want to jump in and just tamp it down, stop it. And, I think a lot of us probably fall into those bad habits. And usually what parents will do be like, come on, man, like, it's not that big of a deal. Stop whining about it. He was just joking around. Come on. And then all of a sudden the kid just feels terrible.
Right.
They feel less than, they don't feel seen. They don't feel heard. They don't even feel validated. And it's probably not effective. And it probably just causes more anger, more resentment, and just that feeling of like, I don't even have a say here. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah. It's the opposite of meeting them where they are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, grown-ups know that experience too, right? And somebody just tries to tell, like, you would have to look bad. You would have to be wrong, right? You would have to have interpreted reality poorly to agree with someone when they're saying, come on, man, just go with it. But as an adult, sometimes you're able to do that anyway.
Right.
Right? You've learned how to control yourself sometimes.
Sometimes.
Right?
Well,
but as a kid, like, they have to learn those skills too. I mean, so it's useful for kids or adults, of course, but yeah, that's a huge difference. And I do it too. I get triggered. My buddy was telling me just yesterday. He said, he's like, yeah, it's like I just need to, it's like, not respond with my first or second impulse. But I think what that says is a lot of us know what we should do, right? You can learn amazing techniques, but how do you get yourself to actually do it? And I think NLP, like, in addition to the techniques, it helps you actually get to where you're actually doing it, right?
I love that, man. How long have you been married?
We got it's always hard to calculate because there's like an extra year where we sort of weren't dating, and then but we got married in 2013, so it's 12 years that we've been married, and then a couple more years that we knew each other.
Okay, so here's like the $1 million question.
Yeah.
So we've given examples of how this has really helped you as a dad.
Yeah.
How has this really helped you with marriage?
Yeah. Yes. So, I'll give an example. So
Perfect, because we love stories.
yeah, so this was 2.5 years ago. And I had always gotten the complaint from time to time, like, you're not letting me have my feelings, right? And this was something that for me, I'm just like, I'm Mr. Empathy. What are you talking about? Right? Like, I study this stuff. I teach this stuff. I'm like so good. I'm always present. What are you talking about? Right? So it's like wounding me to hear this. Right? And but from time to time, this would come out. Right? You're not letting me have my feelings. And so, like, rather than take it seriously, because often it would come out in these moments where, like, maybe it's bedtime and, like, the kids are just being difficult that night, right? And, like, I'm just like, I need you to be my partner here. I need you to step up. This is not the time for me to attend to you and attend to them, right? It's like that's what's happening in my mind. And so I'm feeling like I shouldn't have to do it in these moments. And, of course, I do attend to her feelings and let her have her feelings all the time. I always have, right? And she would say that too. But still, this complaint would come up from time to time. And so one day I decided to take it seriously. It's funny. It was, for some reason, it was like on my birthday, I was like, I think I had a little time, and I was just like, I wanted to just try out some techniques just for fun. Cause, like, once you get into it, it's like, you're just like, what else can I change?
Yeah, what else can I,
You know, it's like Keanu Reeves, like, it's just like, I know Kung Fu, right? It's like, so
we are officially a dad show when we do the movie quotes. I love it.
so like, so I sit with it for a little bit. I'm like, okay, wait a second. I have a limiting belief here that I can't, like, let her have her feelings in those specific moments. I know, and she knows I'm doing it a lot of the time, but in those moments I wasn't, right? And so in my mind, I can't do that, right? I have some resistance to it. So when you have this, when you're saying things to yourself like, I can't do that, right? And this is in NLP, you start to capture your own language patterns. Then there's usually a limiting belief. So how do you then move past that limiting belief? And there's many ways to do it, but one is to simply ask this question: what would happen if you did? And right now, anyone listening can do that. It's okay. What's something where you feel like I can't do that, or I really like that would be impossible, or like it wouldn't be okay to do that, or it would be too annoying to do that. What would happen if you did, with curiosity, right? Not saying you have to do it, but with curiosity, what would actually happen? Because when there's that kind of I can't, you've usually stopped your thinking process right there. And there's a sort of void beyond it. It's just a feeling, doesn't like something is not okay. And I haven't really unpacked it. So NLP will help you unpack it. What would happen if you did? So I'm like, all right, what would happen if I did? Well, then I start confronting these things that like, I've got this identity as Mr. Empathy, right? And like, I have to, what would that mean? I'm not Mr. Empathy? And then, of course, once I've actually figured that out, I'm like, well, wait a second. No, of course, this is going to make me even better, right? If I can do it in those moments too, right? And then it's like, okay, well, what else would happen? Well, actually, I probably would spend less time attending to her needs in those moments because she would feel seen and heard and safe. And then she would be able to join me and be my partner in those moments. It's like, wow, this actually wasn't that hard for me to challenge once I got into it, even though I had resisted it for years, right? And so it's like, okay, in NLP, we talk about the ecology issues. Like, it's like an ecosystem. Remember in school, like, well, the frogs eat the flies and the flies eat, and the birds eat, right? And if anything changes in the ecosystem, the whole system changes, right? You make one change in your like system with your wife, then you're going to have something else could shift, right? Am I going to have to do more work, or does it mean that, we're going to shift like who's doing what in the relationship? Like there couldn't be pushback. Classic example is with alcoholism treatment. Maybe like the mom and the family is an alcoholic, right? And if you want her to stop drinking, physically, she can manage that usually, get that out of her system or do something where she's like not drinking for a time. But the problem is you'll very frequently have a relapse. And what you can do, and this kind of idea comes from family therapy, is let's look at the bigger ecosystem, the ecosystem of her mind. So it turns out if you start looking at what's going on in the family, they only communicate emotionally when she's drinking. Well, that's a big need. There's a lot of pressure from everyone in the family, including her, to communicate emotionally. And if the only way they know how to do that is for her to drink, she's going to start drinking again. But if you address that need a different way, you create a new balanced ecosystem. So people in the family learn how to communicate emotionally without the alcohol. And then she doesn't need to go back to the alcohol. That pressure just isn't there. Right. And then it's much easier. It's more of a physical thing that she needs to address. So, yes, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, so in this case, like I look for what's the ecology issues. Is there now an imbalanced ecosystem in my mind? Would there be a problem with making this change? Or another way to ask it. And so anyone right now who's resisting a change, you can do this right now. You can think about this. Larry, you can do it right now. Is there any change that you're sort of resisting? Are you able to call one to mind?
Yeah, man. I love being the guinea pig on these shows. So yeah, let's do it. Let me think here. Can it be something physical?
Sure.
Okay,
Anything.
cool. So I tore my patella tendon 5 months ago.
Oh.
That was the most horrific, painful injury I've ever had in my life. Like I almost threw up because I was in so much pain. Like having your kneecap roll up to your quad is not fun. Yeah, it was awful.
Okay.
It was in a tug of war match. So don't play tug of war. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 50. Don't play tug of war when you're 50.
I'm 51. I know, like
so don't do it.
So much stretching, but I am in the best shape of my life because of it.
I was gonna say, dude, like you do not look 51. You look like you're in great shape. But, so I injured myself. I'm recovering still. The year. It takes like a good year to recover. But like I'm way ahead of my recovery schedule. So like I got off crutches early. I got off my brace early.
Nice.
I ran a half marathon. Here's some NLP for you. I always viewed myself as I can never run a marathon. I could never run even a half marathon. Like never. I actually identify as I am not a runner and I hate running. So there's my limiting belief for you, right?
You still do, even though you ran a half marathon.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So I ran my first half marathon last October. And the funny thing is a year before that, I busted my other knee. And I was like, man, if I could ever do this, even on a busted knee, that'd be awesome. And I did it. I finished dead last in my age category, but I finished. But here's what's going through my mind now. Because my son, my 9-year-old, my youngest, asked me yesterday, he's like, how's your knee doing? And I was like, it's doing pretty good. I was like, I'm back to walk, so I'm back to walking 3 to 5 miles a day. I do that normally. I was like, he's like, are you ever going to run again? I was like, probably not. Right. And even as I said that, I was like, what did I just say? I literally just said that. Like, why would I say that? But in my mind, I'll be very honest with you. Like, I have not been able to run yet. I can walk, but I haven't been. I've been too scared, to be honest.
Okay,
To
so
run.
you want to run, but
I
you
do.
haven't been able to. You've been, in some ways, you would say, scared to do it.
Scared to do it.
Right. And so, and maybe this will be an obvious answer for you, maybe not. How does it serve you to think that you'll never run again?
It doesn't at all.
It doesn't at all. Okay. How does it serve you to be scared about running?
If I were to look at this with a glass half full, I think the fear is trying to be protective. Like, hey, if you do this, you could hurt yourself again. So don't do it. So it's kind of like the brain, it's sort of seeking that comfort and keeping me safe and injury free. So maybe there's that.
So you don't want to hurt yourself again.
Yes.
And why is it important to you to not hurt yourself again?
It's kind of, even though it's hard for me to talk about, to be honest. I take a lot of pride. It's even maybe dangerous to, like, it's part of my identity that I take a lot of pride in being able to play with my kids, run around with my kids, play kickball with my kids, frisbee with my kids, catch with my kids, carry my kids on my shoulders. And I cannot stand saying no to my kids when they ask me to do something, especially if I say I can't physically do that. I feel terrible. Like, I feel less than. I don't even feel like a man. I don't even feel like their dad. And for me to go through another several months of being on the couch and watching my kids play without me is hell to me, because I know the clock is ticking of how long they'll be here. And every missed day of doing that is a missed opportunity in my mind. So it's absolutely horrifically terrifying for me to be back in that position again. And for a man who is an entrepreneur and a producer, and it affects that too. And if you have a busted leg, you can't have sex with your wife like you normally can. You can't be intimate like you can. You can't protect her like you used to. You just feel like a broken dude. I know that was a lot, but it runs pretty deep.
That runs pretty deep. Yeah, it's horrific. I don't even feel like a man or a dad. I can't protect my wife. I mean, these are, right? Yeah. So how does it serve you? Right? It's trying to somehow ensure that you forever get to feel like a man and be there with your kids while they're growing up and play with them and protect your wife, right? That's what you're ultimately trying to get at here. And then the question is this the best way for you to do that, to just avoid it and say, I'm afraid of it? Or is there a better way for you to feel like a man and protect your wife and get to play with your kids and get to be part of it, and get through these next few months without it being horrific, to use your language, right? And
that's dead on.
Is there a better way? Or actually, here's a better question. What are 3 better ways?
I guess, to be honest with you, like, the conclusion that maybe I've come to, and I don't know if this is right or wrong. I'm literally just exploring this right now on a deep level as you're taking me through it. I justify that walking is healthier and it's more sustaining. It's recovery, it's healing. It actually helps me recover, versus like me telling myself you should do something harder and run.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're justifying. So it feels like a justification, which suggests to me there's like a conflict internally, right? Yeah. And so we can do the same thing where it's like, well, how does it serve you to justify that?
To be honest, I think it serves me both positively and negatively.
Okay.
So it positively, I'm one of those guys, man, that I and to my detriment, I run through a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
Almost to the point where my drive can hurt me. Like, so I'll give you an example. I busted my knee playing tug of war, and I busted my knee playing tug of war at a men's event that I hosted. And the person that I was going up against, I literally, before I picked up the rope, I said, this is who I am. I'm either going to break or die, but I'm not going to let go of this rope. I'm going to win, period. And I'm either going to die trying or I'm going to break. And I broke.
You broke.
So like that's the part where it gets me in trouble. I'll just keep going. So like I'm trying to, there's that part of me that's...
Up until now in your life, having that attitude of I'm going to break or die, but I'm going to win, has helped you get to this place where you can feel like a man, where you can be there with your kids and enjoy every moment, where you can protect your wife, where you can be intimate with your wife, right? All of these things. It's enabled to help you to get that. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. And now you're finding the context has shifted a little bit, at least during this healing period, and that is no longer getting you to that outcome you want. But the outcome is still the same, right? And so what I'll invite you to do, and you can start the process now and you can continue it unconsciously, and I'd be happy to chat more if you want another time, but is to, just to start becoming aware of what ideas do you already have about how you can enjoy this time with your kids, get to a place where you are strong and healthy and feeling like a man and being who you want to be with your wife, right? What ideas do you have about how to do that are different from always having to just like, I'll break or not, but I'll get there? Because, I mean, on some level, do you believe me that there are other ways? So you're open to the idea that there are other ways.
1000%. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are many. We don't have to find them all now. You don't have to know them all now. But one thing that you can trust, and this comes from NLP too, your unconscious mind is doing so much more figuring than your conscious mind could ever do. It's this incredible pattern recognition machine, right? And it's pulling from everything you've ever experienced in your life and everything you've ever imagined. And there will be things that come up if you're open to it. And so I would suggest we could continue here, but I would suggest that we kind of pause there. Obviously, I've given you, it looks like, a lot to think about and some interesting directions to go in. But I also want to step back for the audience and say, one thing I was trying to illustrate was this ecology check. Like, is the ecosystem out of balance? And a great way to tap into that is to explore, how is it serving me to behave poorly? How is it serving me to do the thing I don't want to do? And why is that important to me? And those two questions are all we did. But it got to a lot of useful stuff about what really matters and the potential to have alternative ways to get there. And then, so ultimately, to kind of wrap up the story I was sharing, and we can come back to this too, but to wrap up the story I was sharing with my wife, after that day, after those, I forget if it was like a half hour or 45 minutes, but it was roughly in that time frame. After that day, I didn't tell her I had done this work internally, right? I didn't hear her say, "You're not letting me have my feelings again," except for once, 2 years later. Once. That was it. From that day forward, I behaved differently. Things were better. She never felt the need to say it. It was a year after I did it that I told her I had even done the process and pointed out to her that she hadn't said it to me.
Wow. That is amazing. Can you describe just in detail, like, exactly the change that you made to that she felt heard and she was able to have?
I don't remember at this point what the specifics of the shift in my beliefs were or what made it okay, but I knew that I got to a place where I noticed the limiting beliefs I had. I challenged them. I explored the next step. I got in touch with what was actually important to me. And there was some kind of solution where I was like, wow, this is actually going to help me, whatever this is, this new way of behaving with her that I've imagined, where I'm letting her have her feelings, right, in those moments, is actually going to help me achieve what I want better, right? That and I know that's the process. I honestly don't remember at this point the specifics of what it was, but the thing is, it wouldn't be the same for anyone else. Like, the process would be the same, but the specifics wouldn't. It depends on your values and your capabilities and so forth.
That is fascinating. I would love to help men identify some bear traps. Like, so like
I like
you've been in
that
this
term for
space
it.
for a long, what's that?
I like that term for it. Some bear traps.
We
Yeah.
call them bear traps. We call, the spikes on the road, that kind of thing. It's basically the very simple, quote unquote, ordinary things that people just, so it's kind of like the example of like with the kid getting triggered and you're like, why are you so mad? Like, it's not that big of a deal. Come on, calm down. Right. And you're looking at that being like, going back to the Matrix, you're like, I have the red pill and I know that that's not the thing to do. Right.
Right.
So are there dynamics that you see dads, and let's just talk about the dad part now,
Yeah.
that you see dads doing with kids that quite simply, if they just tweaked it a bit, they'd have a different outcome?
I think here's one that came to my mind immediately when you asked that, and we can certainly explore others. But I see moms doing this more intuitively than dads, but dads totally can, and it can be like it doesn't look weird for a dad to do it. And when I say look weird, like it's a physical thing that I'm talking about here. So, have you ever, you can probably picture this pretty easily, right? You got the teenager and the parents, right? And the teenager is like standing, like, shoulders hunched, looking off to the side, body kind of like turned away a little bit. And the parents are like rigid and upright and looking right at the teenager, right? And they're trying to make some kind of communication happen, right? So those two like extremes of body postures and ways of looking at each other, right? You can picture that. And you can feel the tension between them. You're just like, this is going nowhere, right? They are not going to connect. They're not going to be able to talk. This is just going nowhere, right? So it turns out, and this has been well documented in research over the years as well, that when people join one another physically, in terms of posture, even this fact, like you're leaning back a little bit and I'm leaning forward just because where our mics are, but if I lean back a little bit, unconsciously, it probably is communicating, I respect your reality. Like I respect your way of being. It's a very, people experience it as feeling heard and seen unconsciously, sometimes even consciously, but unconsciously very much so. If you're trying to sell something to someone and like, they're all moving fast and quickly and you're moving slowly or vice versa, you feel like, oh, this isn't good. It's not going anywhere. You get this, it's like, I'm not connecting. It doesn't matter what the messages are. But if like you're kind of like joking a bit and your pace and your body language is similar, you tend to feel like it's going somewhere. When people feel like they're in rapport, like good connection, they tend to move and speak more like each other, not mimicking each other, but more like each other. And it works the other way, that when you move in sync a little bit more and use more similar language, like if you go to another country for a while, you picking up some words, right? And like, it's just, we do it when we're feeling connected to someone, and it also makes us feel connected. So a mom is more likely to just intuitively kind of get with the kid's body language, right? Not always. And I've seen moms be terrible at it, right? But I think for dads, it's almost like it would be an affront for you to change yourself to like for the kid, right? And you might feel like you're changing yourself. But actually, you can think of it this way, that you are respecting the kid's reality. You're letting them know in an unconscious but very powerful way, usually more powerful than in words, that you respect where they're coming from. And so if you're talking to your teenager and they're doing that, you can kind of like look away for a little bit while you're talking. You can kind of relax your posture, right? You can slouch a little bit. And just like for a while, at least, just in certain ways, you don't copy them, but you take on some of that. You get the gist of it. That is often a totally new thing for dads. And it is a really great way to start to build a little rapport. You have to build rapport in every conversation. Don't think that because you had it yesterday, you have it today. So in every conversation, right? And this is with anyone, but with your kids, they're not adults coming to the table with equal capabilities, right? So you're doing even more of it. So with your kids, you like take on some of that. You start earning the right to influence them, earning the right for them to open up because you're showing I respect it. And what'll happen too is you'll start to influence your own thoughts because you'll start to see their perspective automatically a little bit more. So there's one thing that I think is often completely new for dads that can really help a lot.
So it's like it's for a dad to read the room from maybe a body language perspective,
Yeah.
and to pick up on body. 90. I believe I read that 93% of communication is nonverbal. So
Right.
Um,
I internally chuckle at those kind of statistics because how would you ever know that? But yes, a lot of it is
yeah.
nonverbal.
Okay. Yeah. Um, so with that being said, it's I want to ask you just a question around psychological safety.
Hmm.
And I think this goes in line with exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about it from a body language perspective,
Hmm.
but I'll be very honest with you, Josh. I don't have many skills and talents as far as like being able to fix stuff. Like I didn't grow up with a dad. I
Oh, you
granted I
mean
could
like
easily
physical stuff, like
physical stuff.
you
I
like
can't.
make a table or something, or like
No,
get the okay.
no, I'd get an effing home ec if I always joke that I could hold up a bank with a drill, not a gun. Like because I'm dangerous with it. But it's kind of a joke because my wife comes from all blue collar handyman, so she's got two brothers who are contractors. Her dad's a mechanic, so like they can fix everything.
Right.
And but my wife and everyone I've ever known, and I don't say this to sound self serving. Everyone I've ever known has always told me you are one of the one of the easiest people in the world to talk to. You make people feel so comfortable, and they gush with things that they tell you. Like I always get people that just got, and they're like, I can't believe I just told you that. And
Nice.
I've asked my wife, I'm like, I have no idea what I do.
Uh-huh.
Like, I mean, granted, I've learned a lot about communication and psychology and that kind of thing, but still to this day, I have no idea why people open up to me, including my kids.
Hmm.
But the one thing that I've always tried to be very conscious of over the years, because I read this book. I'll never forget this book. One of the best books I ever read. It was called I Know What You're Thinking. And it was a book all about body language. And it basically teaches you how to make people feel more comfortable. And to be honest, I don't remember any of it
Uh-huh.
hardly, but I remember it was just a fascinating book because it goes back like so many years. But I don't know if there are certain elements. So, like from a body language perspective, you know, I think what you're mostly talking about is giving them space, maybe mirroring them just a little bit. But are there certain facial gestures? Are there certain body language gestures that encourage and invite people to talk more to you?
Okay, so this is going to be a surprise, I think, for
Okay.
most people. No, no,
Really?
no. Yeah,
No
it's not.
way.
It's not about doing the right gesture. It's not about
Okay. Yeah.
smiling. It's not because sometimes smiling is going to really piss somebody off. It depends on the moment. It's just
Yeah.
like, like I remember when I was teaching high school, and these. By the way, that was like the coolest job I've ever had apart from
Really?
teaching NLP. And like it was like
Surprised.
those two things like I feel so blessed that I have had those two opportunities like in my life. And I've done a lot of other cool things too. I'm very happy about. But anyway, I'm teaching high school one time and this kid, he's like really kind of like annoyed and he's just like, you don't have to smile all the time. And I was just like, oh my God, I look like such an asshole right now. Sorry, can I say that? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I look like such an asshole right now. Like, I'm smiling while I'm telling them about, like, essentially this punishment, right? That I'm giving them. And it's because in my mind, I'm sort of laughing at the idea that this even matters to them, that like this thing that I'm doing, like I'm sort of amused by it. I didn't even realize, right? So it's not about that. It's about connecting with the other person on their wavelength. And sometimes you've got someone who's very quiet, right? And very reserved. And I can remember saying this to classes. It took me years to learn it, but like this was at college level where you have a lot more of like people have learned to put their guard up, right? And and so I had half the students who were, they're introverts, right? Because it's just normal, right? They're just not going to want to speak up. So I meet them there. I ask a question, and then I say, I know that a lot of you right now are really thinking about the answer, even if you don't say anything out loud, and I really appreciate that, right? And so here I've got these people who are like, they've got this sort of like reserved, closed, don't look at me kind of body language, and I'm joining them. And I'm also saying it out loud, right? I'm just like, I know that, and that's fine. And I'm not staring at them when I'm saying it, right? And sure enough, they start talking, right? And then the others are going to talk anyway because they want to. That's how
Right. They're
they're
extroverts.
processing it.
Yeah.
But so like if you've got someone who's like who's serious and likes to swear a lot. I mean, just think about like there are certain people who would fit on your show well, and there's certain people who wouldn't. You can probably just be like, oh God, that one's going to be
I got names
right.
coming to my mind right now.
Think about how they move and talk, right? And how they, right? So, but if you want to make those people feel at ease, move and talk a little bit more like them, right? So whatever it is that the other person is doing, if you can find a way to match them or mirror them, not to like copy, but to get the gist of it, to let them know that you respect their reality, like that's the key. And it's the nonverbals are probably, in my experience, more powerful than the verbals, but the verbals or nonverbals both work. Does that answer it well enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it totally does. That's really, really good, man. What about
Oh, can I just say there's one challenge though when you got a large group, right?
Yeah.
Then you've got multiple different. So then what I like to do, because I love public speaking, I enjoy kind of like imagining who I really want to connect with, right? And presenting that way. But I pay attention. And if I'm seeing that there are certain people who are different, I take at least a moment to try to connect with them non-verbally, right? But it doesn't mean that I then stay there or just focus, but like, and I try to lead them all towards my way of being ultimately. Like you meet them there and then you lead them.
Got it.
Yeah.
I love that, man. I would love to talk about too, because this is a real issue with dads. And sometimes we just don't know what to say. And it's like, and we feel the pressure in these situations to say the right thing. And sometimes we're like, what is the right thing? So let's talk about like limiting beliefs when your kids come to you with their own, right? So like if, like my 9-year-old, he'll look at me and he's playing catch right now. So he's learning baseball. We throw the ball a lot. And he'll say something like, I'll never be good enough to be on a team. And my response is, of course you are. You could be on a team, no problem, right? But then again,
does that work?
No.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking.
So what I would say is, don't worry about saying the wrong thing. That's the first thing, because it's all an experiment. There's no failure, only feedback. That's one of these kind of like basic presuppositions that we have in NLP, that let's practice seeing the whole world as like an adventure, right? So no failure, only feedback. But so you tried that. Sometimes it works. I mean, I remember I hurt my back when I was 18. I had a herniated disc, and the doctor's like, well, I was like, well, I have limitations. Well, you'll never swim the butterfly. And I was just in my mind, I'm just like, screw you. Oh yeah, I'm going to, right? And then of course, then I swim a lot, and I swim the butterfly and everything, right? It's my favorite stroke. But it's like, so that was the perfect thing for him to say to me in that moment, right? And I didn't like it, but it was perfect for me in that moment. So I'm never going to say it always has to be one thing, but I will say, stay open to the idea that look for what you actually communicated. So you said that to your son, of course you will. But the meaning of this is another NLP belief, like that we encourage people to just always take on. The meaning of your communication is the response you get. So what was the result of saying that? That's what you communicated, no matter what you meant. Take responsibility for that. Find out what you communicated. Sorry, let me pause. You're thinking about that.
I feel like everybody should just hit the 15-second back button just to hear that one more time. So, but people obviously get super frustrated. I didn't mean it like that, right? Well,
and that may be true, and you could argue that. Is it useful?
Yeah. It's kind of like, am I really being effective? Is really
what do you care about? Do you care about proving what you meant, or do you care about getting a certain result?
Yeah. So if I were to have, so let's just say I'm playing catch with my 9-year-old tonight, and
I could offer you another thing you could say, since that didn't work. Is that, sorry, let me go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, if you were to coach me, to say, hey, the next time your kid says that, maybe try this or ask this question or whatever that is. What would you tell me to do?
Perfect. So he said, I'm never going to be good at baseball, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in that language pattern, he's using something we call a universal quantifier, never. Universal quantifiers almost all the time are overgeneralizations, meaning they're not actually true. Right. And sometimes we can't know it's about the future, but still, it's like, so you can follow up by challenging that universal quantifier. You can say, never. And he might say, yeah, never, right? But then you can still go further. He's like, really? There was never one time in your life when you were good at baseball? And you're like, actually, I had a pretty good game the other day, right? You can see that happening, right?
Yeah.
And look, every once in a while, it's true that a universal quantifier, something is actually true. He never has been. But also, what does good mean? So it's like, so in this case, my hunch is, of course, there's going to be some time when he felt like he was good at it. So, since the future, you think there never will be a time, right? Maybe we don't know about, but we can go to the past and say there was never a time, even one time. And then how specifically were you good? Or how specifically were you not good today? And he might get into, so that's a second question. How specifically is a great thing to follow up with, because then he can be like, well, I struck out 3 times. Okay. And tell me about you can't control whether you strike out. The greatest players strike out, most of the time. How did you approach hitting? Are you happy with how you approached it? Right. What else? Other parts of the game. How were you as a teammate? Right. You can try to unpack this belief. It's like being good. How specifically were you being good or not being good, right? Never. There's never been a time. And what you're doing is you're getting curious about the things that you don't actually know. And if you don't know it, he probably doesn't know it, right? He isn't thinking about it. And so you're helping him by understanding what you need to understand. Is it really? It's never, right? And how specifically were you not being good, right? You'll unpack that. It's going to become an easier problem for both of you to solve, and you're going to then intuitively know what to try saying that's going to be relevant.
So it's really just sort of zooming out, right? He focuses on this one sort of statement, and then we start to ask questions around curiosity, right, to get him talking more about specifics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great approach. Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, you said, I'd love to find out what it is that I do, meaning you, to make people feel at ease. So the core of NLP is this idea of modeling, right? Modeling excellence. If somebody does something well, how do they do it? That's what the founders of NLP were doing when they were studying the psychotherapist. And I think the one thing that probably sets NLP apart the most from anything else I know of is they taught us the tools of modeling. How do you learn somebody else's skills? And so I would love to have that conversation with you. Either Greg and I would love to have you on our podcast where we do that. We find people with an amazing skill and learn how they do it, or just have a conversation and then I can share with you. I'll tell you how you do it.
That would be awesome. It would answer some questions for me. Can I ask you one more situation?
Yes, please. Sorry, I keep jumping in when you're about to.
No, this is just so good. So here's another scenario. So my 9-year-old, right? It's not baseball season. We just go out, we have fun, we throw the ball around. It's just fun. My 11-year-old is playing 6th grade tackle football, and there's 33 kids on his team. It's a huge team. The coach plays the same 11 every game. Okay. My son is not 2nd string; he's 3rd string. And dude, he's devastated. He's like, I'm not good enough to play. I'm not good enough. They won't start me. So it's here I have this situation with this. And by the way, our championship game, the team is undefeated. They're a good team, but he also plays the high performers the whole game. Our team has actually shut out every team. Not one team has scored a touchdown on us. So the coach really wants to win.
Right.
But trying to explain that to my son, I'm like, I really focus on the Carol Dweck thing. I focus on his work ethic. I don't focus on the results. Hey, you're getting faster. You're working really, really hard. You're faster off the line. You're doing great with the ladder. You're doing great with the Oklahoma drill, that kind of thing. So I really focus on his effort. But for the life of me, I got to be honest. I've seen this kid cry, I don't know how many times at this point, and it's I'll just say I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say to him. What do I say to him?
Well, so there's so many ways to go. One place I would like to start is with figuring out what you want to get out of him being in this scenario, right? Or being on the team. And then another thing is what he wants to get out of it. and start focusing you both on where you want to go instead of on what you don't want. Because then you start solving that problem instead, right? What is it that you want to get out of it? And the first question I'll ask you when we start getting into that is that in your control? And if it's not, what is in your control is going to help you get there. But first, we need what that desired outcome is. And so, what is it that you want to get out of him being in this situation?
To be honest, I know this sounds like super, maybe shallow or maybe way too high level. I just want to see him happy. That's it.
Okay.
Like I could care less. Like if the team wins, like I don't care if he's like the star player on the team. I just want him to come off of practice and the games like with a sense of pride and happiness. That's it.
So you want him to have a sense of pride and happiness.
Yeah.
And what will that get you? Why is that important to you?
You know, seeing your kid, he's never missed one practice all season. Seeing your kid work that hard, and see them just devastated. I guess what I want out of it is just kind of going back to what I said, which is I just want to see some joy, you know, that he has with it. And because I know that he loves the sport, but he hates not being one of the players in the games.
Okay. So you want him to see that joy, and you want him to see that joy each day after he gets back from practice or from a game?
I mean, I know it's not going to be every game or but I would just love him to be like, I contributed. Like,
you want him to feel like he contributed. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it in your control?
No, I can't put him out on the field.
Contributed. Okay.
Yeah.
Or that he has pride or he has joy.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's not.
Don't.
Okay. All right. So we would say that's not a well-formed outcome. It doesn't mean it's a bad goal to have. It's a great thing to work towards. But a well-formed outcome, if you don't have a well-formed outcome, you've got to set up for failure.
So true.
And there's so many goals. It doesn't matter what kind of goal in your life. You can chase after it forever. If it's not a well-formed outcome, odds are it's not going to work out. And if it is a well-formed outcome, you've got very good odds. And I couldn't give you a specific number, but one of the 5 criteria of a well-formed outcome is it in your control? So what is within your control that might get you to a point where you're influencing his feelings about the game?
I would say we talk a lot. You know, we have really in-depth conversations about it. You know, I luckily I think I do a decent job of meeting him where he's at. I'm a very empathetic person, a very empathetic dad. At the same time, when I'm sitting there thinking about like what can we do about this, how do we create a solution? You're right. I think the biggest thing I've ever missed was, what do you want out of this? What outcome do you really want? My mind goes to, you know, I could work with him more outside of practices. I could take him to this football academy that's down, you know, not far from us in the off season. We could do those things if he wants to, it's his call whether he even wants to continue playing football. We always leave that up to our kids. But those are things that we have in our control, that we could do things outside to bring his skill level up a little bit.
Right. Okay. And so, and you don't, you want him to continue developing his skill level. Your sense is he wants to continue developing his skill level. And right now you have this belief that if he comes away with some joy and some sense of contribution, that'll help him in this goal, right?
I hope so.
Right. Here's a different question that could be useful. How will letting go of that goal that he has as joy or this sense of contribution actually enable both you and him to get to where you really want to go in terms of being able to grow as a person and as a football player?
That's a good question. That's a question I haven't even thought of.
Would you like to think of it?
Yeah. Yeah, I would. I mean, because at the end of the day, me and my wife, like we've always had this belief in 20 years of parenting. We do not care what our kids do as far as like their activities and their sports, as long as they do something and they enjoy it. And and it's something that helps them grow. It teaches them lessons and that kind of thing. So to us, it doesn't matter if it's football or swimming or whatever. It's just a matter of, does he enjoy it? Does he find, you know, and
Is it
perhaps asking
possible?
that
Sorry,
question
go
would
ahead.
alleviate that particular, that what we're kind of like battling against.
How will focusing less on whether he enjoys it enable him to ultimately enjoy it more?
Man, this is a deep question, but it's something that I am definitely going to think about. That's a good question. It's like, so I, I have to tell you, I mean, this is probably the most experience I've had with NLP as far as even like
Uh,
me just direct.
Probably
But
true
I
for a
love
lot of
the
the people
fact that
listening.
we
Yeah.
ask ourselves different questions to
Yep.
come to different solutions. It's really zooming out and looking at several different factors that are at play. Is that pretty correct?
Oh, yeah. I mean, being great with NLP is all about getting curious about what and being open to what you don't know and asking questions about it. And Tony Robbins talks about the power of questions also, because he also is like, very motivated by NLP, right? It's the questions that we ask ourselves plant these presuppositions in our minds about what's possible. If I said, it's like, how can I get my kid to be happy, right? Then I'm presupposing he's not happy and that I have to do it. If I said, how will letting go of the goal of him enjoying it enable him to ultimately enjoy it more? Well, I'm presupposing that he can enjoy it more and that it's not, it may be different from how I've thought. And maybe letting go of something could be useful, right? I'm just sending my mind in a whole different direction. And I don't even need to evaluate the belief that letting go of this goal could help because I'm presupposing it in the way I ask the question. So I'm just jumping my unconscious mind past that point so the filters don't go up and I can just start thinking about it consciously, right? Not, and so there's this you learn these wonderful tools for asking yourself questions that just jump ahead to where you're going, and you don't waste time on all the stuff in the middle. But even if you don't have all those skills yet, like just asking yourself a question about where you want to go as opposed to what you don't want is going to make a big difference.
This is so good. This is so good, man. You must have parents that like studied this or something too, huh?
Yeah,
You-
that's why I'm saying, like, I feel like dads need to know this stuff
yeah.
and it can be learned. You can really, and then if you want, you can just run with it and just keep learning it forever because it's so deep. But you can start doing it, instantly, and it's amazing.
I love the fact that not only you wrote this book, and I want to make sure that we point the audience in the direction of your book and this other program that you have coming out in January. But I got to tell you, man, and this is I don't know how well you take compliments, but your kids are very lucky that you have this skill and that you've studied this because I didn't really understand this too much until you came on the podcast, and I feel like I'm in the shallow end of the pool. I'm not even in the deep end where you're at, and I'm like, man, my mind is just going gangbusters just thinking about even my own limiting beliefs and how I can rethink those. But this has been so helpful. But I really want you to tell us about your book and where guys can find that, and also your program that you're doing in January.
Yeah. So for anyone watching, if you're doing YouTube, it's The Difference That Makes a Difference that I'm holding up right now. I mean, it's available everywhere, right? It's, go to Amazon or wherever you want to buy books. There's an audio version as well and Kindle. If you speak another language, we've got 3 translations coming out so far. It's a USA Today bestseller, and we've got great Amazon reviews, so other people think it's good too. We've gotten some great comments about it, like from some of the like central figures in NLP, and then from other people outside about how it's very accessible, which was very important to us when writing it. So you can flip through to one chapter, you can read it straight through. Anyway, The Difference That Makes the Difference is the book.
I love that. The difference that makes a difference, and it's definitely made a difference in the 1 hour we've been on today, except my mind is just racing. I love this. But guys, you can find the links on the show notes for you today. We'll have a link for Josh's book, also his website. And then also, what's your program in January?
Yeah, so it's NLP for dads. I call it Amazing Dad, the Amazing Dad series. And it's I love that reaction that you had. So just go to joshdavasphd.com/dads.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So you've even like narrowed this to dads. I love that.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to have all the information for you in the show notes. We'll also watch us on social media as well. We're going to be re-releasing some of the reels from our interview today with Josh. Just to remind you guys that this program is going to be available in January. So Josh, from my heart to yours, thank you so much for dissecting my brain and helping me think about things differently. This was so helpful. I think that this was a podcast / a slight coaching call with me to you, but I think the audience liked it because they can see how you work, and they can see like how even if they watched on YouTube, I mean, my mind, I was like, I haven't thought of that. Oh my gosh, I haven't thought of that. I haven't thought of that either. Let me think about that. So like, I just love the advice you gave me personally. So thank you.
It was so awesome to get to do this and to have you like really go there with me in these conversations. One thing that may be enticing, if I can add also, is that there will be a free offer also on the thing in January. So for people who just want a free taster, then they can do that too.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about your program, man. And I think it's so needed out there. The more we can get dads in good conversations and also to meet kids where they're at, I think the better off we're going to be. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
You bet. All right, guys, that's all we have time for today. Hope you guys enjoyed today's show big time. I know I did. For all the show notes and everything that we talked about today, because let's face it, today's show was jam-packed with my man, Josh Davis. Just absolute gold. I really, really enjoyed today's show. Guys, head on over to thedadedge.com/1401 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/1401. Gentlemen, from my heart to yours, continue to go out and live legendary. Take care.